So, anybody have a question for me? Yes. Yes. How'd you know? How did you know? There was a little place on Waverly Place in the Village, across the street from Washington Square Park. That was, now it's a fancy building. You know, people pay rent, but back then it was like rooming houses. You know, not rooming houses. Rooming houses, yeah, with rooms. And all of us would get together and, you know, get some change, and we'd rent these rooms, right? And Valerie would come there often, right? And of course, this was before she shot the person that I was talking about earlier. The manuscript and that hat of hers was pretty amazing. I know when the word got back to us over there that she had shot him, you know, like we knew eventually something was going to happen, you know, but she was just distraught. And he wasn't such a good dude, you know. He led a lot of our community on saying things that he would do, you know, that he didn't, you know. Did he deserve to get shot? Probably. I didn't like him. You know, he didn't get killed, so he probably, you know, he wasn't a very good guy for our community. Anyway, when my book comes out, you can you can read it, and I'll tell you more about all of that crap. Yeah, but yes, I did know. I loved her caps. I think we all wore those caps back then. Here's the thing. You know, this is before the automated jail closures of cell doors, right? This is before that. So in this prison, it wasn't a jail, this was a prison. We found out that back then you could smoke in prison, you know, and we could have filtered cigarettes, right? If you broke off, maybe that's why I break off my filters. If you broke off your filter cigarette, right, and stuck it in the lock of your door gate, when the COs would come through, the tiers, and slam your gates, it sounded like it was locking. Wasn't locking. Those gates. So when the CEOs would go in the hall, you know, and sit out there at their desks, the gates would open, you know, and you'd go find the girl that's buying you the stuff and taking care of you, and with the hopes that, you know, you hook up on the outside. It's you know, if you don't have somebody in jail, it's lonely. You know, it is. Gay for the stay was a lot. You know, I'm gay for the stay. Big time in jail and prison. You know, once you hit the streets, you go back to whatever or whoever you were dating, whatever sex. But you know, companionship, somebody to watch over you. You know, make sure nobody fucks with you. And butchers did that. You know, make sure that the girl that's taking care of you, you take care of the girl. You know, that nothing would happen to her either. But I think companionship, for them, for me, it was sex. You know, it was just like, I want to fuck. Washington Square Park. So fucked up you would not believe. The woman I'm having dinner with tonight was at Stonewall, Miss Major. And we were all in Washington Square Park when it broke out, and it took hours. You know, even though it's only like 4 blocks, and they're short blocks, it took hours for it to filter down to the park side, right? So I remember parts of it, and I remember nothing. You know, remember a lot of cops, a lot of running, and that's about it. You know, I'm sorry, I don't remember. I wish I did, because they would be really good fucking stories. You know, they would be amazing stories, and I said, well, maybe I can make shit up. You know, it's like. Yes. I don't remember the dances because I didn't go. I went to the firehouse, I think, twice to pick up women and try to get them to buy me heroin. But yeah, I went there a few times. Yeah, it was an awesome place. And, you know, in those early days. Yes, yes. Yeah. What was that? That was the 70s? That was the 70s. Yeah, because lesbian bars were getting bigger back then. Uh, and how much can I buy it for now? Anybody? I'm, I'm looking for some. I'm not kidding. I'm from New York. Yeah, you could buy. You know, when I was dealing pills, you could get 4 Tylenols for 50 cents. You know, and now it's like $6 for one. You know. So going back, family. I was the only female child. My mother was in and out of insane asylums my whole life. The incest in my family was rampant, and me being the only girl, so I went from father to father to my brother to my uncles to my grandfather, up until I was 12. So being kicked out of my house was probably the best fucking thing that ever happened to me. So apologize? No. Yeah. I did not hide myself, but I needed to work, you know, and it was me and this other butch, we went to Manpower. We both had male IDs, so it wasn't, you know, wasn't hiding, but it was a different me. And I think my name was Seymour. Huh? I don't look like one? Come on. I look like a Seymour. I forget what the last name was. And we worked for Manpower, stuffing envelopes as dudes on the mail. And that's the only time I tried to hide myself and try to pass, you know. And it was just to try to make money, you know. But being a pimp made a lot more, and robbing cars and armed robberies. And let me tell you my armed robbery story. Is that okay? So, I think well, I'll tell you one of them. I can't tell them all. Because this is the one I got caught for. So I'm on 72nd Street and Broadway, and we walk up to 29th Street. It's me, this other butch, and the girl, right? And I think maybe I'm 19, 20, around there. And we go into this bar, and we're drinking and having a really good time. And this guy sidles up to us, you know, and he's trying to talk us up and talk up the girl, right? And, you know, we're trying to be really nice, you know, like, don't get in trouble, we won't do anything, but we were so drunk, you know. So we decided to leave the bar instead of causing problems, right, and hurting this guy. This idiot comes out of the bar after us and walks down this dark street, you know, right behind us, and it's like, let's rob him. You know, like, you know, let's just rob him. You know, so we push him against the wall, and I put a gun in his back, and he gives us his money, you know, and we take off, right? And we go to a restaurant on 72nd and Broadway. It was called Ham and Eggs. You probably, if you ever seen any of the movies back then, it was very famous for prostitutes and queer people. And we're sitting there, and the cops came in and arrested the butch, right? And they took her away. And I'm so drunk and high that I didn't know why they were arresting her, because I forgot what we did. So I stay there, and they come back for me. It's the stupidest shit, you know? The stupidest shit, you know? And, to pass, okay. Lost my train of thought. Wait. So they bring us, we're at the precinct, and we're saying, no, we didn't do anything to this guy, right? And the guy was a tourist. So we were saying all the money in our pockets were our money, but the guy was a tourist, and he put his name on every fucking bill. Dollar bills, 10, 5. He had his name on every single bill. You know? And it was like, you know, it was really hard to fight that. Like, how did his name get in my pocket? You know? You know? And so did a little bit of time for that. I got out on bail and jumped bail. And when I was arrested again for something, I don't know what else, that warrant fell on me. And my lawyer talked me into going in front of a kangaroo jury, which means you're not in front of a jury of your peers, of 12 on a jury. You're in front of 3 judges, right? And I was scared shitless, you know, but I listened to him, and, you know, thank God I did, you know. He gave me, they found me guilty. It's on my record as a felon. But gave me time served. You know, it was like, that's what I said, wow. That's exactly what I said, and ran out of that fucking place. So, you guys are amazing. You really. I've probably run into Audrey a number of times. I am a friend of her daughter's and have been for a very long time. And I love, I cannot say it enough, I love the Audre Lorde Project in New York City. It's going to be in the building that is named after me. I can't believe that shit. You know, it's like, holy shit. You know? I think she was an amazing woman, you know, just amazing. I have her, I have very old magazines and with her and her writings and everything, the original ones. And her daughter is the best, you know. Elizabeth is an amazing woman also, and is doing the good work. But yes, thank you. That's a good memory. That's a real good memory. I'm trying. From knife wounds or beatings or what? Huh? So I do believe in healing. You know, for all those years, I wasn't a really, you know, being a drug addict and an alcoholic and a homeless person. You don't think that much about what's going on in the world or about healing yourself. You know, all I was thinking about was, where can I pee and not get a ticket? You know, where can I buy a drink on a Sunday? You know, and things like that. Today, definitely, healing is so important. You know, I'm still healing myself. This is healing me. This heals me. You know, being with you guys, being with my family, being with people I love, heals me. Telling my stories. History is so important. That heals me, you know. I don't want to be forgotten. When I was in a box, I used to think to myself, I'm going to die in this fucking box, and no one's going to know who I am, you know. And now I have a building, like a box of a building. It's amazing. I so believe in healing. I hug people, you know. I need that touch, you know, and that heals me, you know. Strangers, I don't care who you are, you know. It's like, I need a hug from you. And maybe you need it and you don't even realize it, you know. That's a form of healing. I don't go to too many doctors. You know, I tried yoga. You know, then my legs don't want to do the same things that they want them to do. So I don't do that. But I believe in community. That to me is healing. You know, just reaching out, putting your hand out is healing. You know, keeping that hand out is the thing. You know, and it's hard. You know, I'm not saying, you know, put your hand out and it's going to be easy. Putting your hand out is probably going to hurt sometimes, you know, but it's important, you know. Our community struggles with so many things, you know, with drug addiction, alcoholism, homelessness, transphobia, homophobia, Christophobia, I don't know, all kinds of phobias that are directed towards us, you know, and it's been that way since I was a kid, except for the trans, because that word wasn't there, up until today. You know, it's still there. And how do we work to change that? You know, I do it by talking. I do it by telling a history that's not just, even though it's under my name, this is Jay's story, this is what I went through, this is our story. This is how we live, you know. This is how people see us, you know, without getting to know us. You know, they look at us and think one thing, queer, you know, whatever the words that they're going to use, you know. And that has not changed very much in all of these years, you know. I see a lot of people my age here, maybe younger, maybe older, a lot younger. And that's really, really great, you know, because young people need the elders, you know, and the elders need to tell the stories. Our history cannot be forgotten. You know, when I tell my story, I want you to carry it. But I also want you, because you're going to have stories. You're going to have history. I want you to share that with the next ones coming up. Tell my story and tell your story, you know. And that's what we need to do. We need to connect with each other. We need to keep our hands out to each other. You know, it's so important that we don't lose that connection. You know, we're such a loving, loving, loving community. That's what we say, right? We say the queer community is a loving community. Sometimes not all the time, you know. It depends on what social atmosphere you're in, you know, what, you know, if your friends don't like trans people, then you're on this side, you know. If you don't, you know, like African Americans, then you're on that side. If you don't like Irish people, then you're on this side. You know, we change all the time, and it's time for us to make some stands, you know, and I think that's what Butch Voices is doing, you know. Butch Voices is bringing all of us together today for the next 4 days, right? Yesterday was amazing. Today is amazing. The workshops. I went to Butch on Butch today. Scariest shit. All the armed robberies and everything else, going to Butch on Butch, you can ask her, was the scariest, right? Where, isn't that true? Sex Smith. Yeah, that's one of the scariest things. But it needs to happen. It needs to happen in our communities because we change. You know, I never thought I'd be a Butch. Are you fucking kidding me? You know, but we change. You know, we can change attitudes. We can change who we love. You know, we can't change who we are. That we can't change. You know, but we can change other things. We can change our communities. We can change into a better loving community than what it is today.
The social circles that you were in and the bars that you frequented, how likely were they to be mixed race? And, you know, how likely were people of color and white people to have friendships and relationships? Yeah.
That's really a great question. So, in the 60s, and I don't care, this is my story, and I can say what the fuck I want, you know, and it can be my truth because this is how I seen it, you know, me, you know. Other people might have seen it differently. This is how I seen it in the early 60s and through the 60s. There were, the bar I worked in, very few African Americans. Were they welcomed? Some came in, but I don't think, like, I hear a lot of people in New York City, my age, talk about how inclusive we were back then. And I didn't see it. I think back, you know, now that I'm sober, I think back and I didn't see that, you know. Street people, yes. It was all of us. The bar scenes, not too much. There was a place, like I worked in Bonnie and Clyde's. That's because you just said it. I worked in the Bohemia, but there was an African-American bar on 125th Street called the Hilltop, which was African-American, and it was fabulous. You know, I'd go up there as much as I could, and it was a great bar. And so I seen it as, I could go up there and feel fine and feel comfortable and be welcomed and everything, but when African-American lesbians came down and butches came down into the bars of New York City, into the Village, looking back, I don't feel the same way as my peers felt. That all that fucking inclusive. But that's my truth, you know. It's like, I might be wrong. Maybe I was not seeing things the right way. Or maybe my memory, I don't know. But that's how I felt, and that's how I still feel, and that's when I think back, that's how I can count the friends that I had that were African-American that were hanging there, through maybe, you know. Until the 70s, Bonnie and Clyde's. Okay. Wait, let me just answer this one. Bonnie and Clyde's, yes, a lot of African-Americans, and this was the 70s, great bar, nice people. So, about a few years ago, someone sat down and was going to write them for me, and they got stuck on the incest part of my life. You know, I mean, for so long that it was like, how much can I say? My father fucked me. What do you want to know? You know, how much can you say about that? You know, really. So I started thinking that maybe it wasn't me, it was, she had a problem. You know, maybe she had the same problem as me. You know, and we stopped working on that. And then I've had two other people that started, and it wasn't a good fit. People would want to do it, and then something else would pop up and leave. But yeah, do I want to write my own story? Yes. I don't write, that's why I don't have a speech. You know, I can't spell, and it's really hard for me to write things. So.
Make a movie.
Who would play me?
Oh, we'll find some, yes. I think you have a crowd to choose from here.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So. Yes. Oh, Glenn Close. But who's going to play baby? See, I wasn't known as Junior when I was a young butch. I was called Junior as a young butch because I was the baby butch of the village. I was only a real little one. But who would play Junior back then? I am working on it. Me and my partner, Sid, are trying to do something. I'm not that technical stuff, but something about a dragon. That you could talk into a dragon. That's kind of scary, you know? Dragonscape, okay. Anyway, I think I've spoken way over. Yes, no. Just right. Okay, I'm just right. All right, guys. I love yous. I think I tied everything together. I don't know. I'm very dry. Yeah. You know.